wanted to show you some point to point today. So on the fabric, you can see this pattern here, and I'm going to show you how to create that so that your quilting can be a little bit more continuous, but also block specific. So this is a little bit more custom instead of just your edge to edge. So first we're going to go into point to point, which is on the right hand side. It's the one that looks like the little pins that you would set on a map. Okay, then we can either pull in the pattern here, but I already have the pattern pulled in, and we're going to first set our first corner. So what you're doing is you're saying this is where I want my pattern to go. And if you look at the fabric, we need to know the height. It's kind of easy to just pick from there to there, and I need to know the height that I want that design. I think before I had done like 1.85 or something. So you're just going to pick the height that you want your design to be. And since this is a half design, so let's just go ahead and in the pattern height, we're going to just type in 1.85. Okay, so then we're just going to tell it where to start and where to stop. So we're going to do that with this little green plus. That's our point in our pattern chain. Then we're going to come down to the bottom and do another green plus, and you see it hasn't moved yet, but as soon as I do that, it sets it at 1.85 and in the direction of this right here. Okay, then we're going to come back to the very first point again and do one more plus. So we have this set. So we're going to do a cut. So this has a little scissor between those little map points. Okay, and then we're going to come up to the top and we're going to do a plus and just go down and do a plus at every point on that. So then we're going to come back, and instead of using my points here, I'm actually going to zoom in and I'm going to make sure that I'm in the center of my green and red square, my green circle and red square. That way I know that they're going to end exactly where I want them to, and they won't cross over and look bad. Let's go out a little bit. Okay. All right, one more cut. Then we'll come over to our last one for this pattern. Do one there and one here, and then back again. Okay, so now we want to pull in our other pattern. So what we do is we just come here, pull in, where is it? There it is, Ninja Star. Now this design fills up that whole area. So then we're going to take our ruler, and these are 3-inch squares that I drew on here. And I'm going to just say 4 inches. So I have a little bit of wiggle room. So we're going to take the pattern height and change it to 4 inches. Okay. We want to make sure that the pattern that's selected, because I accidentally touched this pattern, we want to make sure the pattern that's selected is the one that we want to do. So this, we're going to just do this one twice. We're going to start here and do our plus, plus, and plus. Now because we had, the other one took that little pattern that we had brought in and it moved it to there. But since we have so many on here, it's not going to do that anymore. So I just have to make sure I delete it. And then we want to make sure that one of the ones that we're using is selected. So that one's selected. Then we're going to do a cut and come up and finish right here. So 1, 2, 3. So you can see you can find designs that work that fill a whole square, or you can find the ones that just do a half a square. Half a square is great because you can do half square triangles also. Okay, and then I just quilted that out. So I just wanted to show you so you could see more before we started that. Okay, let's see how high I can go. I also wanted to show you how, let's do 2.5 inches, how you can do like piano keys. So 2.5, and we're going to bring in, let's go out a little bit. So this button here will show you your whole pattern box, so which is nice. And then we are going to start here. We did 2.5 inches, and then we're going to pull in this little design. And there is a ton of designs that you could put in piano keys, but we're going to pull that one in. And then we're just going to say, okay, we're going to go from here to here. And then we'll just take that all the way. And the nice thing about it is when you have, I've done this on a quilt that had picots, and I was able to keep the picots in that little triangle space that it creates at the bottom. So it was really fun. Okay, we'll just take it that far. So again, we don't want to quilt this one out. That's not in the right place. So we're just going to delete it. And you delete by just making sure it's the one that's selected and then doing the minus on the right side. So, okay. Now let's show you on this one. Let's use some continuous curve and create. So let's see, how far do we want it to go? We can go to 2.5. So we could just keep our pattern height at 2.5. Pull in our pattern. Just going to do this. Oh, let's do the clam. I like the clam, has a nice, I think everybody should have that pattern on their tablets. So we're just going to use this clam and pull it in. And if you look, your design, the green to the red is how it's going to do. So if I started here and went green, and then my next little spot here, that design would take off and go this way. So on this one, I'm going to have to start on this side because I want it to be in this block. Okay, so we're going to do, make sure that's the one selected. And then we'll go here and come down to the second point there. So you can see there it is. And then down to the third point. And so we now have a little clamshell going sideways. All right, then I'm going to cut, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do my first point. Now, again, this time, instead of looking at my point here on the fabric, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I want to make sure that this blue line is even with my start, or with my green and red dots over there, so that I know that when I create that next clam, that this won't be squampus. It'll be nice and even. So I'm going to come back up to the top and do one more. So, and since it's probably, it looks a little bit squampus, it's probably because I marked this and unloaded it. So, but, which is kind of cool. So that's really fun to be able to do something like that. And then if you wanted, you could do some free motion in there. All right, so there are a few different kinds of patterns you can do for flying geese. And we're going to go back into patterns, come out of saved, go back into my point to point. All right, so in point to point, I have this one here. It's Atlantic flying geese, or can't see the full name, but I can come down here at the bottom. And well, first I'm going to pull it in, and you can see that the green circle is at the bottom of my flying geese, so I'm going to start at the bottom. And we're going to go into point to point. And before we create it, we have to make sure that we know how big we want it. So this is 4 inches. So let's do just 4 inches. Let's see how it does. 4 inches. Sometimes I'll just give it a little bit of wiggle room and not do the full thing and do like 3.95 or something. Okay, So we're going to start here, put in our first point, go up to the point, put in the second point, and the third point, and the fourth point. So you can see how it created the flying geese right there. But what's cool is I can also go back out, see which one is selected, and minus those out. I can also pull in a pattern that will fill in both the flying geese and the half square triangles on the sides. So we're going to pull that pattern in, keep it at our 4 inches. Now if I started at the bottom and went up, it would go the wrong direction because you see that the green is at the top. So we're going to come up to the top, go into point to point, and it's hard to push buttons with all the cameras. Come down, and do my points coming down. So that is kind of fun to be able to fill in both, and so it's a lot quicker when you can find a design that does both of them. Okay, let's go ahead and quilt out a few of these patterns. So let's first delete this pattern though. Go into edit, delete that one. Okay, so we know we don't want to quilt out any of these, so we're going to delete these also. So you can see which one's highlighted. It's just going to go right through the way that we populated them onto the, okay, perfect. Now we'll go back into home and do our green button and say green for go. If I'm doing custom work, I usually have in a ruler foot and not the spoon foot, but I thought this might help you see a little bit better. All right, so another way that I have used point to point and free motion quilting together is I have made a spine for a feather using the continuous curve, and then I came back and filled it in because it was a log cabin, so it had all the edges like that. So I just put a spine in the center, did feathers on the inside and the outside of my spine. So I will just show you how I did that really quick. We'll pull in our design, and let's do the first one 1.5 inches and the next one 2 inches maybe. So let's do 1.5 inches. And we're going to start here and go down to this circle, and then we're going to come back up here and do another one. So now we have that. Instead of 2, let's do 1.25. 1.25. So then we'll start here. Oops, since I didn't cut, that's what happens. So we'll do a cut, and then we'll start here. Highlight that one. So we're using it. 1, back down. And this is where I'd want to zoom in and make sure I'm on the same point as the screen. And then back up. We're going to zoom into our needle. And I should have done that first. Now you can see I have 2 different points, but it zoomed in pretty far, so it might not show. Another thing you can do, and I can kind of show you that here, is let's pull in a pattern, and it can be a border. So let's go into our borders. Haven't created border on this tablet yet. So let me just scroll down, and we're just going to use this one here. And we know we can't go very far up, so we're going to have it at 2.5 inches. So it's not a very big border. So we're going to go into our point to point. Make sure that this design, we're getting to be quite a mess in here, aren't we? So we're going to do 2.5. And start here, and we'll just do every 4 inches. So we're going to go here. And then what's nice is you would use your piecing as a guide, or you can mark with chalk or whatever you like to mark. Don't mark with ballpoint pen like I did here. Okay, so another thing I was going to warn you, when you're doing ones that are tall and skinny, if you change out of your, see how they're in a nice straight line here? So if you have, and you're not careful, let's come over to this point, and we'll pull in that design again. So we're going to go into point to point designs, pick this one, still keep it at 2.5. So I just kind of want to show you what would happen if I went there, and then if I came straight across, and then if I come down a little bit. Now obviously I don't have any more points marked, but you can kind of see on the tablet that you have to be pretty careful about your spacing and if that is in a straight line. So if their piecing is pretty wonky, you might not want to try to do a tall skinny one. But there is a few different things that you can try using point to point. Really, your imagination is your limit. I really enjoy being able to use it and come up with fun and different patterns. So I hope you enjoy also. Our word of the day, we have a giveaway going on for a short time, is thread.